Hello, church. Thank you for joining me today. Here it is, Palm Sunday, where we celebrate that triumphal entry of Jesus coming into Jerusalem. And what a great place to wrap up our series, Born to Lead. On this day, it's resting in His love. And I pray that you have that triumphal entry of Jesus into your life where you can rest in His love. Have you ever been in a place in life where you have nothing more to give? Maybe you're there right now. You're physically exhausted, emotionally spent. If you've ever had a packed schedule or a full day or an excessive load of responsibilities, you probably know how easy it is to become tired and overwhelmed. There's a word for that: burnout. So when we face burnout, we need to remember to rest, not only physically, but also spiritually. Because burnout can be an emotionally exhausting place where we lose our perspective on God. Who's God to me, and how do I access His abilities? Now, I've been there before, in a place where I think God is standing over me with a great big stick that says minister on it. And then He's saying, get up and minister with the stick, right? Hitting me, you got to get out there and minister. But that's not how God is at all. So while I intensified my work, I pushed into it, and I read my Bible more and more diligently, that spirituality type thing, right? And I prayed more and more, and I got more and more tired and exhausted. God patiently waits for me, and He waited for me to lose my own strength and turn to Him. He knows what I really need is to sleep, to unwind, to stop being so spiritually intense, to let Him work through me. Look at the prophet Elijah. The first thing God did for Elijah when he was at his wit's end and wanted to hide in a cave was to lovingly care for him. So we're going to pick up his story in 1 Kings chapter 19, verses 1 through 9. When Ahab got home, he told Jezebel everything Elijah had done, including the way he had killed all the prophets of Baal. So Jezebel sent this message to Elijah: "May the gods strike me and even kill me if by this time tomorrow I have not killed you just as you killed them." Elijah was afraid and fled for his life. He went to Beersheba, a town in Judah, and he left his servant there. Then he went on alone into the wilderness, traveling all day. He sat down under a solitary broom tree and prayed that he might die. "I have had enough, Lord," he said. "Take my life, for I am no better than my ancestors who have already died." Then he lay down and slept under the broom tree. But as he was sleeping, an angel touched him and told him, "Get up and eat." He looked around, and there beside his head was some bread baked on hot stones and a jar of water. So he ate and drank and lay down again. Then the angel of the Lord came again and touched him and said, "Get up and eat some more, or the journey ahead will be too much for you." So he got up and ate and drank, and the food gave him enough strength to travel 40 days and 40 nights to Mount Sinai, the mountain of God. There he came to a cave where he spent the night. God's refreshing touch came to Elijah in the form of making him breakfast. Now, God may not make breakfast for you, but He might lead you to go for a walk or to clear your head or call a friend and have a good laugh. Get in a community. Come to Bible study. Which also brings me to a really important point. God might work through others to replenish you. So don't isolate yourself when you feel burned out. When Elijah started to get depressed after Jezebel threatened to kill him, and who wouldn't get depressed? She was a very wicked woman. He left his servant behind and fled to the desert where he was alone. Even the word desert, isolation, aloneness. He forgot the very person who God might have used to help him. Psalm 62, verses 1 and 2. "Truly, my soul finds rest in God. My salvation comes from Him. Truly, He is my rock and my salvation. He is my fortress. I will never be shaken. You know, the thing about this rest is that we can't find rest on our own power. We must find rest in God. And the hope and peace he has to offer is wrapped up into that rest. Now, part of receiving this rest is taking a break. Don't be afraid to take a break. Some people don't seem to see taking a break as an option. It's like, no, I got to keep going. And they may have that thought because of that. They have limited time, or they feel guilty over not doing something, or there's conflicting priorities. It could seem that taking a break is a misuse of time and an inappropriate choice at that moment. However, this is merely a lie we tell ourselves. We need to break. We need a break. Taking breaks is important. We even see God taking a break, and you knew I was going here in Genesis chapter 2, verses 2 and 3. By the seventh day, God had finished the work he had been doing. So on the seventh day, he rested from his work. Then God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it he rested from all the work of creating that he had done. On the seventh day, God himself rested from creating the world. And that gives us a pattern to follow. If God rested, I need to rest. In Exodus, one of the 10 Commandments, number 4, if you're keeping track, instructs us to remember the Sabbath, a day for the Lord after 6 days of work. So it's wired in there. Let's look at that. Exodus chapter 20, verse 8 through 11. Remember to observe the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. You have 6 days each week for your ordinary work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath day of rest, dedicated to the Lord your God. On that day, no one in your household may do any work. This includes you, your sons and daughters, your male and female servants, your livestock, and any foreigners living among you. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens, the earth, the sea, and everything in them. But on the seventh day he rested. That is why the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and set it apart as holy. So we have that pattern to follow, but then we fast forward to the New Testament and we could see that even Jesus took time to rest. In fact, he rested in the most interesting places. In Mark chapter 4, Jesus sleeps on a boat despite the storm raging around him. The disciples had to wake him up. In Luke chapter 10, we hear the story of 2 sisters, Mary and Martha, and you're probably familiar with this story. Martha is busy preparing everything for Jesus, and Mary is sitting at the feet of Jesus. When Martha came over to ask about Mary, it's like, can I get a little help from Mary? Jesus tells her that Mary chose what is better. It's okay to take a break and rest in God's presence. Now, the Bible does warn us not to become lazy, but it also encourages us to find rest for our souls in Jesus Christ. Matthew chapter 11, verses 28 through 30. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Jesus said, I will give you rest. When you're worn out, beaten and empty, we could turn to God to find peace and relief from our burdens. David describes it this way in Psalm chapter 23, verses 2 and 3. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. You too can be refreshed by God. Now, you may be wondering, how do I get this refreshment? How do I get refreshed in my soul? Or how do I rest in the Lord? How do I rest in God? So here are some practical ways to find rest for your soul. Pray. Take the time to pray and slow your pace. As Jesus said in Matthew 11, come to me and I will give you rest. Come to him in prayer. Remove distractions. Limiting or removing these distractions can help us refresh our souls in the presence of the Lord. Nothing getting in the way. Bible study. Spend time in God's Word in a way to grow closer to Him. The Bible is full of stories of hope, peace, and grace that we can all use during busy times. Hold on to certain verses and memorize them, meditate on them. Practice thankfulness. Another way to find rest for your soul is to practice and to live the attitude of gratitude. Sometimes we focus so much on what we need to do next or our goals that we don't focus on God, where we are, and we become worn out. So God, help me through this time. And then be still. It's important at times to just listen in the quiet. Sit quietly and ask God to speak to you. Go out in nature and enjoy the wonder of God. Be still in His presence. If you're feeling burned out and ready to throw in the towel, turn and find rest in God's refreshing touch and the warmth of His love. And remember, He knows the journey. It's too big for us. It's too much for us. This life as we go through it, it's too much. That's why He's always there, ready to carry us when we come to the end of where our own strength can take us. We need to rely on His strength. What a great place to end this series, Born to Lead. As you lead by your example to rest in the Lord, others will follow you. They will experience God's presence, His peace, His love. After all, you were born to lead.